Hi everyone, it's Dee's from Turtle Dove, and today I have done so much crafting that today I felt like doing something different. It's one of those lazy days. It's Easter Monday here at the moment, so I was just looking online to see what cake I could bake, because I sort of feel like a cake this evening. So I thought I would try an apricot choc chip coconut cake. So obviously I've never made this before, but that's the picture, and my auntie actually had a similar cake. That's what gave me the idea of the type of cake. I didn't ask her what sort of recipe she used. When I tried some of her yummy cake, that was really delicious. That's why I thought, oh, I'll look this up. So I'll just go, before I start, I'll go through the ingredients quickly with you. I've changed a couple of things because sometimes you have to adapt if you don't have something, which I was a bit bummed out about actually, but never mind. I think I've made enough cakes over my lifetime to know that some things can work, so I should be pretty right. So anyway, you need 1 cup of chopped dried apricots and a cup of apricot nectar. Now, I didn't have the apricot nectar, so I have a jar of apricots with the syrup. So I used a cup of that, and the recipe calls for you to soak that together, the dried apricots and the nectar, for an hour. So what I did was just put the nectar in with the apricots on the stove and sort of simmered that for, I don't know, a good 10 minutes or so. So now it's just sitting here, cooling down a little bit. And in the past, over the years, the recipe, sort of that sort of thing, called for you just to put a bit of water in the apricots and put that on the stove for a little bit, maybe with a bit of honey. So I think that should be fine. So okay, a cup of dried apricots, a cup of apricot nectar, or what I did, 125 grams of butter, 2/3 of a cup of raw sugar. I used the raw caster sugar, only because that dissolves quicker. 2 eggs separated, 1½ cups of coconut, and 1½ cups of self-raising flour, and ½ cup of choc bits. I'm using the dark chocolate melts. Okay, so that's the ingredients. So I've done a bit of preparation, so I'm not mucking about in the kitchen and wasting time for you. So I'm just going to adjust the camera down and then we'll get started, okay? Okay, so I have all the method here of how to make it. So I'm just going to preheat the oven. It says to preheat to moderate, bake in a moderate oven, which I'm going to put mine at 180 degrees Celsius. So I'll quickly do that just before we start. And I'll put it on the fan first, 180, and that can preheat. And that is 360 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so first thing I will do is grease my pan. The recipe also called for a round dish, pan dish, but I don't have one. I have one, but with a hole in the middle. So I'm just using this. This is what I mean. You can improvise quite a lot with cooking. I mean, you have to sometimes. You don't have everything on hand at times. So I've just melted some butter in the microwave, and I'm just greasing the pan. So hubby and I are going to watch a movie tonight, and we can have a nice cup of tea or a coffee with a piece of this cake. And tonight for tea I'm making a pea and ham soup with cabanas through it. because it is autumn here in Australia and the weather is getting cooler, so I'm looking forward to all that nice comfort food. Okay, I'm just going to dust that greased pan with some flour and that will stop it sticking. You could use line the cake pan with greaseproof paper. I think that's what the recipe says here anyway, but I don't do that. I want to keep my baking paper for when I really need it, because things are hard to get in shops. So just putting this over the sink so I don't get flour everywhere. It's dusting the excess off, so that can sit aside. I'll pop that there. And just before we start the rest of the recipe, I'm going to get my, what is it, half a cup of choc chips. These are the buttons, so I just want to chop them up a little bit. Now, where's my half cup measure? I've got stuff all over the kitchen. Here we go. So see how that goes. Now I've washed my hands. I'm preheating the oven. So I'm not going to be too fussy, just want them chopped up a little bit. You could use any chocolate you want. You could use the milk chocolate. I like dark chocolate when I'm cooking, especially for cakes and especially together with apricots. Apricots and chocolate just go so well together. Now let's see if this measures a half a cup. I might need a few more. Just wait and see. Okay. I think this will be just about right. Maybe a little bit more even, I don't know. Let's see. No, I'm happy with that. So I'll put that aside, put that away. Okay, so we've greased the pan, we've sorted out the apricots. So the recipe says combine apricots and nectar in a bowl and stand for an hour. Well, I've just told you what I've done with mine. Then you have to cream the butter and sugar in a small bowl with an electric mixer, which I've done ahead of time, until light and fluffy, and then you beat in the egg yolks one at a time until combined. So that's the stage where I'm up to at the moment. So then we have to transfer that mixture. Put those chocolate melts out the way. So transfer the mixture into a bigger bowl, which I'll do. You can hear my oven warming up. That takes quite a while to warm up actually, that oven. So I probably should have put that on 10 minutes ago. Okay, so that's that. So now I've got to stir in the coconut. Now the recipe called for 1.5 cups, but I only measured out 1 cup because 1.5 cups for me personally looked too much. I don't want the coconut overwhelming the cake. But again, that comes with, you know, experience, just my personal taste. So, transfer mixture to large bowl, stir in coconut, then half the sifted flour and half the apricot mixture. Okay, all the coconut stir that through. Already smells nice. Half the apricot. So putting that on the stove or letting it soak for a while softens the apricots up. It just gives it a lot more flavour. And half the flour. So, does it say anything about, okay, I'm just going to sift my flour. I don't think it said anything about sifting the flour, but I'm going to. So that's half of it. The rest of the apricot. And the rest of the flour. And this is the apricots that I used, the sweet vine dry Turkish apricots, and this is a 500 gram bag and I've used half of it, so 250 grams. If you didn't want to measure out the cups. And of course if you really love apricots you could put more in. Okay, right, stir it in running flour and apricots, and then the chopped bits. You could even put more chopped bits in if you wanted. Now the there's my oven ready. That didn't take too long. It's making a liar out of me. I guess it's because it's a moderate oven, not hot. So some of those apricots are sort of really mushing up and some of them are staying together, so that's just what I want. Okay, so that's that. Now, the next thing to do is you beat the egg whites in a small bowl until soft peaks form and you fold that into the mixture. So, I have done this ahead of time. So it sounds light because you're folding in the beaten egg whites. It's going to be hopefully a nice soft cake mix once it's cooked. Okay, pop those scissors out the way. To transfer to a spoon. Where are my spoons when I need them? Big ones. Ah, there we go. Let me get my ladle. Through that, folding. over mix that anymore. So that is it, I think. Fold into mixture and spread into your prepared pan. So let's do that. This is a well-used pan. Scraping everything out that I can get out. Push that down so it's reasonably even. Push that right into the corners. Okay. Let's flatten it out a little bit more. Normally I bang it a little bit, but I won't do that because I don't want to deafen you. Okay, so that looks like a nice little loaf for hubby and I. So, bake in a moderate oven for about 1 1/4 hours. Stand for 5 minutes before turning onto a wire rack to cool. Then you dust with sifted icing sugar if desired. Okay, so I'm going to pop this in the oven and bake it and come back and show you me dusting the cake. So we'll see you in a little while. Hi everyone, I'm back and the cake has baked all up. Just as well I'm watching it myself and not sort of being too specific on what the recipes said, because they suggested 1 1/4 hours. Now this cake took me 50 minutes all up baking time, and for the first 15 minutes I had it on 180 degrees Celsius, and I noticed that it was browning quite quickly on the top. I was checking every 15 minutes or so. So I turned it down to 165, 170 degrees Celsius, and I let that cook for an extra 35 minutes all up. So total baking time was 50 minutes. What I did was I covered, when I turned the after the first 15 minutes, when I turned the heat down, I grabbed some aluminium foil, and just covered the top of it so that it's not going to brown anymore. Otherwise, there's nothing worse than an overcooked cake. So let's grab it. It's been sitting on the stove top, just cooling a little bit, but I think it's not too hot to handle now. So that's what it looks like. So that browned that much in the first 15 minutes of cooking. Now I'm just going to turn it around. I've already loosened the edges. It's still a bit hot, so let's hope it turns out. Yep. Now don't worry about all this stuff here. That's just the butter and the flour, and that's what stopped it from sticking to the pan. So I'll just turn that one more time. Of course, I washed my hands beforehand again. And now all it needs is a dusting with icing sugar. And just before I took it out the oven, after the baking time, I just poked it and made sure it came out clean, as you do. So let's put some of this icing sugar over the cake. Just a light sprinkling. Now I think maybe it didn't take as long because it's, I don't know, it's in a different tin. I'm not sure, but I always check. It doesn't matter what recipe I'm doing, especially if it's a new one. I always just watch and make sure nothing's overcooked, or sometimes recipes might, you know, you might need to cook it a little bit longer than what it says because everyone's oven's different as well. So just keep an eye on all your cakes. Okay, so I might cut that open. Ideally, I'd still like to leave this sit for another maybe half hour, 3/4 of an hour. Just let it go completely to room temperature. But I just want to show you inside and I want to see myself. So hopefully it's cooked through. Oh, yum. Look at that. All the chocolate and the apricot. I'm going to have a little try of it. Oh, and by the way, this recipe I got online, I've written it down here, from the Women's Weekly Food website, and this is way back from 2011, believe it or not. So I'm going to get that middle bit here with the bit of apricot in, because I love apricot. It's very crumbly because it's still cooling, so that is scrumptious, really nice. So of course once that's completely cooled, it's going to sort of stabilise, so it's not going to break up so much. At the moment it's so fresh that it just wants to break up. But this is a winner. I think this is going to go into my little book of recipes to try again, or to use again. Okay, I have a vegetable soup, or vegetable with some leftover lamb roast meat cooking on the stove, so I better not eat any more of this until I've eaten my tea. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to see more cooking videos. Cooking videos are a little bit harder to do because there's a lot of setup and time in between recording. But I do enjoy doing these now and then. So let me know if you'd like to see another cooking video in the future. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.